Well, listen, man, thank you. I know we don't have a lot of time here, so I just wanted to say thanks. Appreciate you coming onto this thing. And the primary reason I want you to be here is you have a pretty interesting story. And I think there might be a lot of people who are considering LPT that um, because in Canada it's relatively unknown. I think it's virtually unknown for them to understand the quality of people who have migrated from their own ecosystems and environments into LPT. You know, we've had people come from EXP and KW and Remax, large, small teams, whatever. But you have a very interesting story.
And you should just start recording because what you just said was unique and good.
I am, and that was my intro. Good. But so I can cut this piece out.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I want people to understand that a quality agent movement is happening. It isn't just, you know, the low transactional, low volume people who are kind of migrating over to this organization, this ecosystem. So I know you don't like to talk about yourself, Suneet, but I'd like you to maybe just share your history, brief history, and I mean that genuinely. So, you know, I know you're a coach. You're on big stages across North America. I mean, the first time I met you was in Toronto. You were on Cheplack stage up here, right? And you're running Real Estate CEO, that group with Isaac. You have run some massive organizations and still are. So fill in the blanks, man. Like, who are you? What have you done? Where are you at? And ultimately, what made you decide, after running a phenomenal business, to transition over to LPT?
Sure, yeah. So I've been in real estate now, I think, for a whole 12 years. It's the longest career I've ever had. So I got in my late 30s. It was the third career in my life and something I never saw myself doing, which is probably similar to a lot of people watching this. I just kind of, landed in my lap. And the crazy thing is even at 36, I was maybe the youngest person in the office that I joined. I had the most open mind about marketing and online lead gen and technology. It was an older school office, and lots of props to that office. They have sold many, many houses. I've sold more now, but they've sold many, many houses. And within 9 months of being licensed, I was Rookie of the Year for the West Coast for this big brand. I said, well, shoot, man, I can really figure this out. The next year, I continued to grow my business, and I eventually went to another big franchise and really got more exposed to more personal development, coaching, more tech and marketing, and kind of really went all in. That really was like dynamite in my underwear and got me going, right? And being that I had previous business experience, I was involved in some coaching at that point. As far as being coached, I decided to start a team. And it was interesting. When I started a team, I just got, $1,000 worth of PPC leads, and I'm sitting at the end of this cubicle farm. So like 6 cubes, I'm sitting at the end, and I got some leads, and I stood up. I said, hey guys, I got leads. I'm starting a team. Who's in? All the other 5 people sitting behind me raised their hand, and I was all, well, okay, well, that worked out. Interesting facts, some of which are still on the team to today.
Wow.
Yeah, which is very interesting. Some of them came and gone and came again and gone again and came again and gone again, which is fine. However, I still have some who've been with me nearly the whole time. So I decided to start a team. Around the same time, speaking opportunities started to really come up, and it was kind of just, meteoric. And this is something interesting, is the brokerage that I was at, and I'll just share it with everybody, it was Keller Williams, and all the respect in there. When I started a team there, my agents, through grit and resilience and just us figuring it out, us flying the plane as we're building it, the agents eventually started to close deals. So great, it's a great success. However, the split structure and having multiple splits and multiple caps and all this on a team, the agents selling houses are not making money. And I remember that feeling of frustration. And I said, how do I fix this? So I went to 100% brokerage in Sacramento, which is where I live. And, it was great because it was cheap. However, that's all it was. There was no value, and the culture was not the kind of culture that I liked. Within being there for a couple of months, we were number one, right? So I'm sitting there, and it's, I wasn't happy with this, and I wasn't happy with the alternative. I wasn't happy with Keller. I wasn't happy with this 100%. And the way that I think is that if I'm not happy with something, I'll just build it. So I partnered with some friends in San Diego who had a business model that I admired, and we created kind of a beta franchise for their organization. And then Big Block Realty North was open. So within being licensed for 3 years, I already owned a brokerage. I had no idea. But what I did know is working hard and marketing first and selling my ass off, right? The rest of the stuff, I would always hire people to, I didn't know about accounting and the checks. I didn't even think, I just opened a brokerage without thinking about any of that stuff. Can I get an office? Can I get a broker? Can I get the registration stuff done? Let me get the insurance. Okay, everything else we'll figure out. And we were able to. About 2.5 years after that, I still had my team and I still had my brokerage. So at being licensed for 6 years, all of a sudden, I was the number one team and agent in the state of California.
The
state of California. Fifth biggest economy in the world.
Wow.
Right? I was number one in volume. Sold about 1.2 billion that year with a B. And units, and I believe it was about 2,100 units. It could have been 1,900. But at the end of the day, it was a lot. And I set a bunch of records that have not been close to being touched. And I'll always be proud of that. Then the next year, I think we were number one again. But the most important metric for me was to be number one in Sacramento. I never aspired to be number one in Cali, right? When it happened, I was talking to my coach, and we were just kind of doing math, and I'm like, dude, holy crap. Am I going to be number one? And he's like, dude, I think you're going to be number one. I was like, Cali? He's like, dude, in Cali? Right? So I just wanted to be number one in SAC, which I was for the next 5 years. And number one by a lot. A couple 100% over number two. Not a couple percent, a couple 100% over number two.
Thanks for the emphasis on that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is you know who number two ended up being for many of those years? My right-hand man, who was on all my contracts. He shouldn't have got any credit for them anyways. I should have been number one and number two. I was so pissed at him. He had no control over it. But it was me and him. It should have been all me. But so at this point, right, brokerage is doing well. My team is doing, obviously, really, really well. And honestly, there was split focus because, hey, owning a brokerage is great, but the financials are not as good as owning a team, and the camaraderie is not as good as owning a team. And the work is thankless. Running commission checks, dealing with compliance. Like, I would have to, if I saw one of my agents with a post on Facebook with the wrong branding, I would have to be the guy to say, hey, you got the wrong brand on here. Talk about a horrible thing that I don't want to do. Right? So all these compliance things were just starting to wear on me. The accounting, like, why the hell am I paying someone to cut checks? Like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, right? California is a litigious area, so a lot of frivolous lawsuits. I know y'all in Canada don't have to deal with that. However, in California, we really have to deal with it. And just the threats, here in the United States, the National Association of Realtors put some changes to the contract where I could see more lawyers circling. So I knew I had to make a move. And look, as you said, I coach and have these other businesses, coaching, consulting, all these other things that I do. I've coached all the top agents in every ecosystem, right? Not all. I've coached top agents in every ecosystem. Without a doubt, the top in every ecosystem. Um, I've spoken on stages. I know the CEOs, right, of all these companies. Um, the only one I didn't know was LPT. And as a matter of fact, none of the other companies in the space excited me at all. Now, when I met with Robert Palmer, the CEO of LPT, and saw the video and saw the rest of the stuff, I was really intrigued. It seemed to, my perception of it was the financials were very agreeable to the agents making money. If you remember, I said the first challenge I had on my first team at Keller Williams was that the agents weren't able to make money because of the financials. So then I did 100% side, I did all this. So that was always first. Even with many of my brokerage agents being at 100% model already, to transfer for them to move their business to LPT, another 100% side, they'd be saving money, doing the same amount of business, right? While still getting access to a huge list of very cool things. And, you know, people talk about that white box of theirs. Let me tell you, when I first heard about the white box, I was all, whatever, right? Like, whatever. So they sent me one and I put it in the garage and didn't pay it no mind. At that point, I wasn't sure if I was moving or not. I work out at home. I have one of those tonals in the garage and I'm in there working out and maybe did a hard set, a little bit more huffy puffy. So I decided to take a couple more minutes in between my next set. You know how it is, Neil, right? Hey, that was a hard one. I'm just going to take a little bit longer break. So I'm sitting there looking around in my garage and I'm like, there's the white box still unopened. And I open it up and I was all, is someone playing a trick on me? Like, they gave me all this stuff and I can get it for all my listings? Now, is that a reason to move your entire business? I don't know, but that's a really good reason to think about it. And that's a really good tool to use on all your marketing, right? So after I opened that box and I kind of paused on the whole idea of moving just politics and business and partnerships and all that. But that reignited it and I came back, right? And I really dug deep. And I got to know the executive staff, including Robert Palmer, on a more intimate level. And something that's important to me is resilience and grit and taking massive action and being scrappy, right? And I didn't feel that from the other CEOs and executive staffs that I met. When I met Luis Valdez, both the Matts, right? Robert Palmer, Tracy, all the executive staff there, this crappiness just came out of their pores, right? And that gets me excited. If I'm going to team up with somebody, I don't need to team up with anybody, and I could team up with anybody that I want. If I'm going to team up with somebody, there has to be a real connection on vision and work ethic. And the only place I saw that was LPT.
Dude, you know, you've said it so well, so articulately. I've been at the same brokerage for 40 plus years.
Long time,
dude. And that 40 plus years, nothing. EXP, a little tiny eensy bit had me leaning, but I thought I was so late to the party that, I don't know, man. It just, you know, there was nothing of value other than the fact that they were the biggest cloud-based and so on and so forth. And all due respect to, we both have some good buddies in that environment. And I do not feel in the slightest that it holds a candlestick even close to LPT, what it offers. My mom, check this out, asked me the other day, a few days ago, on the weekend, she said, why did you move? I said, well, let me tell you something. And this is not a disparaging remark. This is just how I feel. I said, well, I've been with RE/MAX for, call it 41 years. And I will say in the last while, Remax takes where LPT gives. And she said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, the cost to work at that brand, Remax, is roughly 4 times the cost of me working at LPT. LPT gives me the magic white box every listing for the cost of shipping. What do you think the value of that thing is, man? If you had to go to the
I don't know, bro.
right?
$100, $200?
Oh,
I don't
dude,
know.
it's got to be more than that, man. It's got to be more than that. You're talking die cut. You're talking.
Yeah, you're right.
Is hundreds in my opinion. And here it is. You got a listing. Here it is. Like, that's a gift to me, right? That's an incentive. That is a very smart business visionary, marketing visionary at work, keeping the ecosystem charged and alive from within. So back to your point of being scrappy, I thought, wow, this is incredible. The compensation plans, the fact that you can, going back to what you were saying earlier, if an agent isn't a high producer and they don't want to get into the whole revenue share and all that aspect, which is a great opportunity if you want to do that. Yeah. But in contrast to some of these other brands that are cloud-based that have the rev share or profit share environments, if you're not making good money and really focused on building your ecosystem downline, whatever you want to call it, your network, you're paying into something that you're not getting the benefit of paying into. Whereas LPT, if you start at the lower $5,000 cost to, be there, and that's $500 per deal, up to 10. If you don't do all 10 deals, you're not back charged. If you do 3 deals, it's $1,500. But imagine now that you were on an 80-20 split with like some of these other companies. You only did 3 deals. Each of those deals were $1 million or $800,000. How much have you just contributed to
too much,
right? And you've gotten nothing back because you didn't hit your cap. So in my opinion, people who might need a reprieve from a cost standpoint in this economic climate, and those people who maybe just are focused on thinning down their expenses, whatever, if they want to start there and then move up and ascend to that next platform where they found that they're attracting people by virtue of the composition of the organization, then if they want to activate, I know I might be getting into the weeds here a little bit, but if they want to activate that next step, they can do it, but they don't have to start there, right?
Yeah, no, that's freedom, right? And flexibility. And look, like that's what consumers and B2B people, business owners want, is freedom of flexibility. That's what I want, right? For me to shut down my very successful brokerage and give up a lot of freedom and flexibility. For example, I don't run the checkbook anymore, meaning not that I wanted to run the checkbook, but I could go write myself a damn check on a commission anytime I wanted, right? Like I can't do that anymore. That's a big power shift.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yep. So also I took over, I don't know, over 100 agents who were expecting a certain level of dealing with me. And now it's my reputation on bringing them over. That back end operation has to be dialed. The support has to be dialed. And honestly, every interaction I have, we sell a lot of houses, right? Every interaction that I have, I am pleasantly delighted by the support. And I can't say that about many things in any kind of business. I can't say that in my damn gym, right? And they see me all the time. I think they're sick of me, honestly, but hey, that's another story.
But, like going back to all of your successes, particularly in such a short period of time, and they have been executed so well, from Reside to your coaching one-on-one to being on stage to all the things, the big block. You have a mortgage company as well, don't you?
You got a bunch of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you got a bunch of stuff. That's what I really want to drive home to anybody that's watching this, is like, for a dude who is as successful across the board, it isn't like you had one blip, that you recognize the value and importance of this platform, not only for you, but also for your agents who are the ones grinding every single day. And they have, when we switched, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so challenging, got to get new business cards, signs, this, that, the other. When you told me back in October, or whatever the case is, November, that you were making the move where you had, it was like, dude, I can't even imagine what the effort would have been on your part to whether real or perceived, to make the shift with that kind of a conglomerate. And you thought, notwithstanding the ease or difficulty of that actual move, you did it anyhow for what was on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, in that instance, the juice was worth the squeeze, right? And it was never about me, right? Like, honestly, I don't need the real estate business, the businesses that I have. My calendar and everything is fine without ever selling another house or owning a team again. But it was the best option for my agents. And what kind of leader are you going to be if you know about a great option and you're not presenting it to the people that you lead? That's what we call a shitty leader, right? This makes more sense for the agent. I studied every competition. It's my business to know this. This is the only thing that made sense and continues to make sense.
So for those people who are not, you and I have talked about this before, it's a framework: problem unaware, problem aware, solution aware. Those people who might be watching just out of curiosity, but don't realize that there is something much more significant and magnificent for them. And if they're running a team, they're agents. If they're an independent, like you were, moving a brokerage into this ecosystem, what would you say to them if they don't even realize that there is an issue? This could be just, oh, that's kind of interesting that they're talking about, but to bring it to light, like what advantages from your perspective would they get by at least considering this situation?
Well, I think everybody should always be open-minded about especially their business, right? So you want to sell more houses, right? Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to save more money. Maybe you want to grow your business, right? You must remain open-minded. If you watch this video, you're obviously an open-minded person. So what is the cost of not knowing what else is out there? Well, it could be everything.
Dude, that's a mic drop right there.
I know.
Oh,
man. Right? Like, what are you leaving on the table by not knowing because you decided to be closed-minded about something that's probably pretty important to your life and how you make friggin' money?
Dude, that really is all that needs to be said. All the other stuff is filler. Anyway, man, I'm not going to hold you. I respect your time. Thank you very much.